No questions about the test. Sorry. The glory of the test is twofold. One, it gives sufficient anxiety so that everyone studies. And we hope that you don't study and then forget. And the best way to avoid studying and then forgetting is review, and test is a review. And another important way is to teach. So when you go back, or wherever you are, you should all teach. This is the best way to learn and the best way to remember. Teach. Prabhupada told me to learn something and teach others. You should learn something and teach others, and it will really stick. So that's the glory of the test. And the second good thing about it is that it allows me to know what I am teaching well enough and where help is needed. So it's a test for me as well. And of course, although your grades somewhat depend on that, that is not primary. And it's easy, I say that it's not primary, but still we give you the test and they are important. So you all took it quite seriously and we appreciate that. Now, has Braja Bihari Prabhu talked to you about grading already? The devotees will be grading? Yes? No? Yes? Okay, because you're going to help grade the tests. Now, Ram Gopal Prabhu has given me a list of the devotees who are doing their homework especially well. This is very important, and we take this very seriously. Approximately 1/3 of the grade is based on your homework. 1/3 of the grade is based on the tests, and 1/3 how much money you give me under the table. No. No. 1/3 is class participation, but because this mostly I lecture and just talk so far, there's not so much opportunity for class participation, which may press it up to 50%. But here are the devotees in the last week who especially did well in their homework. That's 80. Please raise your hand when I call your name. This is almost 1/3 of the class. Vinod Bihari Prabhu, good. Thank you. Krishnadas Kaviraj Das, good. Madan Mohan Das, good. Very good. Narottam Das, very good. Narayan Jwara Prabhu, Hare Krishna, very good. Bhakta Vladik, very good. Very good. Bhakta Amit, I just sent him away, very good. And Bhakta Vakash, good. Thank you all. So if you're not on this list, you should be on it by next week. Last week you were on it actually, and I didn't announce it the previous week, I think. And I think you also. And this week you are both not on it. It's very important because it means that we're taking the study seriously. I know that sometimes you're overburdened with homework and sick, and I know it's very difficult. But please take the work seriously, because in all these type of things, we get out of it what we put into it. Just attending a course like this accounts to a little. Did you put the... What happened to the slippery elm? Where is it?
Oh, I thought you said it's next to it.
Amit, let me cross your name off this list for a second. So please work hard on the homework and take it seriously. Now, the first 2 weeks, I think, were the heaviest philosophical parts of Nectar of Devotion. That's over. Now, the practices, which aren't very philosophical, but you should think about them. That will be the next 2 weeks, starting today. And the third 2 weeks will be the remainder of week will be spent on the remainder of the eastern side of the ocean, which means Raganuga Bhakti, Bhava Bhakti, and Prema Bhakti, all in 1 week. And then the next week will be the rest of the Nectar of Devotion. We'll go very quickly. That's approximate. Because the most important things are that the first 2 weeks, understanding the basic principles of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu and the basic practices of Vaidhi Bhakti. These are the most important things. Now, very good. Huh? I'll just give it to me. I'll somehow or another have everyone close their eyes and I'll take all my medicine at some point. Today we are taking medicine in class, which is not one of the angas of Sadhana Bhakti, but still. I mentioned your name as one of the 8 students who had done their homework very well in the last week. Please keep it up. Okay? Thank you. And the last point I wanted to make is that last time I taught this course 2 years ago, because this part that discusses sadhana bhakti, sometimes there's not very much more to say about it other than what is written. So what we did is we divided the class up to different groups, and we had each of the different groups make a presentation. We gave them different parts. They put on dramas mostly. Good idea, eh, Narottam? Yeah, it's little dramas about somehow or another they to teach us. We can do natak. But Srinivas Prabhu this is his field, drama. To teach us some of these angas. They thought of creative ways so they would stick in our mind. And actually some of them were quite good. I remember some of them, even to this day, even though it was 2 years ago. And it was quite interesting because it gets the devotees talking about it. So I'll see about that, but probably we'll end up doing that. Creative teaching, creative learning. Okay. Now we'll begin just a few words on chapter 6, which is basically an overview of the rest of the this portion on Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. In the beginning of chapter 6, Prabhupada explains that Rupa Goswami has put together this section of the Nectar of Devotion based mostly on Sanatana Goswami's Hari Bhakti Vilas. Now in Vrindavan, if you go to the Radharaman temple, very, very often they will tell you there that Gopal Bhatta Goswami wrote Hari Bhakti Vilas. But actually Sanatana Goswami wrote Hari Bhakti Vilas. And the original outline of Hari Bhakti Vilas was made by Gopal Bhatta Goswami, and Sanatana Goswami filled it out. Yes. But we accept certainly that Sanatana Goswami has written that. Now, in this book, different from Hari Bhakti Vilas, Rupa Goswami has put in the most essential of the rules and regulations, the vidhi and nisheda of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. We should follow these very, very carefully. This is the essential principles that are listed here. It is not the details. But the basic principles are explained here, and they are meant to be followed very carefully. Next, after explaining that point, Rupa Goswami describes how there are four most important items. The first four are most important, but later he will describe how 5 are most important. But here he describes how the first 4 items are most important, and then the first 10 items are most important, and then the first 20 items are most important, and then the rest are considered more or less equal, except for 5. The 5 items, Pancha Anga Bhakti, will be described near the end of our 2 weeks, near the end of this section on Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. The first 4 items that are very, very important are accepting the shelter of the lotus feet of a bona fide spiritual master. That's the first and most important item of devotional service. Second, becoming initiated by the spiritual master and learning how to discharge devotional service from him. Third, obeying the orders of the spiritual master with faith and devotion. And fourth, following in the footsteps of the great acharyas under the direction of the spiritual master. These first 4 items are one verse written by Rupa Goswami. And these are considered essential. This is the real foundational basis of progressing in devotional service. Beyond that are 6 others which are included in the most important 10, beginning with inquiring from the spiritual master how to advance in Krishna consciousness, being prepared to give up anything material for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. 7, residing in a sacred place of pilgrimage like Dwarka or Vrindavan. 8, accepting only what is necessary or dealing with the material world only as far as necessary. 9, observing the fasting day on Ekadasi. And 10, worshipping the sacred trees like the Aswatha or Banyan tree. These 10 items are considered very important. So Prabhupada explains here that these 10 items on 54 are preliminary necessities for beginning the discharge of devotional service and Vaidhi Bhakti regulative principles. In the beginning, if the neophyte devotee observes the above mentioned 10 principles, surely he will quickly make good advancement in Krishna consciousness. So those 10 are very important. We're going to go through those one by one though. Is this the best time to ask the question?
No.
Okay. You're welcome to ask it later, as you like.
You mentioned Shaida.
Huh?
Shaida.
Shaida?
Nisheda.
Nisheda. That means prohibitions. I think it's time to take medicine. Excuse me. And Nisheda means what you should not do, the prohibitions. Sarva Vidhi Nisheda Cha. Remember I quoted that verse? Smartavyo Satatam Vishnu Vismartavyo Nujatachit. That means always remembering Krishna and never forgetting him. And then Sarva Vidhi Nisheda Cha Etiyo Eva Kinkara. All the rules and regulations are meant to be assistance to that main rule. Vidhi Nisheda. What you should do and what you shouldn't do. Then, the next 10, one should rigidly give up the company of non-devotees. We'll go over all these. This is what we're going to do. Basically, in the next weeks, let's go over these 64 items. One should not instruct a person who is not desirous of accepting devotional service. One should not be very enthusiastic about constructing costly temples or monasteries. One should not try to read too many books, nor should one develop the idea of earning his livelihood by lecturing on or professionally reciting Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita. One should not be neglectful in ordinary dealings. These are all very important. One should not be under the spell of lamentation in loss or jubilation in gain. One should not disrespect the demigods. One should not give unnecessary trouble to any living entity. One should carefully avoid the various offenses in chanting the holy name of the Lord or in worshipping the deity in the temple. There are many, many items in that one. In number 19, there are many, many items. One chapter is on that. One should be very intolerant towards the blasphemy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, or His devotees. Prabhupada explains next, without following the above-mentioned 10 principles, one cannot properly elevate himself to the platform of sadhana bhakti or devotional service and practice. So those 20 are very important. Altogether, Srila Rupa Goswami mentions 20 items, and all of them are very important. Out of the 20, the first 3, namely accepting the shelter of the bona fide spiritual master, taking initiation from him, and serving him with respect and reverence are the most important. And then, in addition, there are 44 other items. 44 and 20 is 64. So these are the 64 angas, or parts, or limbs of devotional service. Prabhupada explains on page 56. Now, at the bottom, the total regulative principles come to an aggregate of 64 items. As we have mentioned, the first are the primary 10 regulative principles, then come the secondary 10 regulative principles, and added to these are 44 other activities. So altogether there are 64 items for discharging the regulative practices of devotional service, that is Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. Out of these 64, 5 items, namely worshipping the deity, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, associating among the devotees, saying Kirtana, and living in Mathura Vrindavan are very important. The 64 items of devotional service should include all of our activities of body, mind, and speech. And this is the purpose of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. To engage us totally, 24 hours a day in Krishna's service. Basically, hearing, chanting, remembering about Krishna. As stated in the beginning, the regulative principles of devotional service enjoin that all our senses, remember that verse? Kriti sadhya bhavet sadhya bhav sasadha nityavis nityasas asbhavasya prakata mriti sadhyata. That all the kritis, the rules and regulations, are meant to bring out of the sadhana, the sadhya of love for Krishna, to engage us always in Krishna's service through the rules and regulations of Shastra. The practical, remember Prabhupada had said that this is that sadhana means the practical ways to engage our senses and our mind in Krishna's service. That is sadhana bhakti. Exactly how they can be thus employed is described in the above 64 items, the senses. Srila Rupa Goswami will now give evidence from different scriptures supporting the authenticity of these points. So basically what happens now, in the next section of the book, which is if we look at on page 409, look on page 409, in the waves of the nectar devotion, 409. We see we have completed the first wave of the eastern side of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And this is a description. We've heard of a general description of devotional service, beginning with the definition of devotional service, what the goal of devotional service is, who can take it up, what is sadhana bhakti, etc. who is eligible, who can continue, who can advance, to beware of liberation. The general principles of devotional service, we've heard those, and that was the first wave called Samanya Bhakti, the general devotional service in general. Now, the second wave, which is very long actually, is Sadhana Bhakti, Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. And also right at the end there's a little bit on Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. Right now we are hearing about Sadhana Bhakti. That's what we're doing, Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. And at the end of this wave will be Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti, and then there will be two more waves, both rather short in this part, which will describe the next step. After sadhana there is bhava, and then after bhava there is prema. Okay. Now we'll begin with the first, and as Prabhupada said, the first of the three most important items in sadhana bhakti, and this is called accepting the shelter of a bona fide spiritual master. Ado Guru Padashray. Ado means first, Guru Padashray, accepting his feet as asraya, or shelter, accepting the shelter of the feet of a bona fide spiritual master. Ado Guru Padashray. This is the beginning, in one sense, of Krishna consciousness. Although it is included in Bhajana Kriya, or the practices of devotional service, it is actually the beginning. Everything is set from this point, when one accepts the shelter of the feet of a bona fide spiritual master. There is a quote first from the 11th canto of the third chapter of the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam. First, before, in the two verses preceding this, Prabhupada tells Maharaj Nimi, he's describing the very nature of the material world. And the nature of the material world is that it is not possible to enjoy here. We've spoken about this many times, and most Bhagavatam classes speak about it, at least to some degree, and most Bhagavad Gita classes speak about it, and we are experienced, every one of us are experienced to some degree in this point, although it is very difficult to accept it completely. But it is simply not possible to enjoy ourselves in this material world. Whatever our material desires may be, adyantavantikantaya nateshu ramate buddha, that they will ultimately, whether we fulfill those desires or not, those desires will be the cause of our suffering. Why adyantavantikantaya? Because they have a beginning and an end. Every material pleasure has a beginning and it has an end. So therefore, things that have a beginning and an end, they cannot satisfy the eternal soul. Because we long for a situation and pleasure that has no beginning, no end. That does not mean that there is no variety. In Krishna Loka, Goloka Vrindavan, there is so much variety. And one may think, oh, Krishna meets with Srimati Radharani, Krishna meets with the cowherd boys, and then they stop their meeting, and they eat sometimes and they stop eating, so that has a beginning and an end. But no, that spiritual pleasure is Brahma Sukhya Tvanantam. It is on the Brahma platform, and they are just different varieties of prema on the highest level. They are just different varieties of the same element of prema bhakti. So those pleasures truly, in fact, are eternal. And they truly, in fact, have no beginning and no end. They are eternally going on. Simply different reciprocations between Krishna and his devotees. That is basically the spiritual world. Loving reciprocations between Krishna and his devotees who are sheltered and are parts of the internal energy. That is the spiritual world. But in the material world, which is the reflection of the spiritual world, all those pleasures are not based on love of Krishna. They are based on something completely different. They are based on lust. Kama esha, krodha esha, rajaguno samudbhava. They are born of passion and ignorance. They are based on lust and based on ourselves being the center. They are selfish. And we have these seeds sitting in our heart, just waiting to come out. But we should become convinced that no matter what our desire is, it will not bring us satisfaction when we get it. So therefore, understanding that from the two verses before this verse, then this verse comes, my dear king, please know for certain that in the material world there is no happiness. It is simply a mistake to think there is happiness here, because this place is full of nothing but miserable conditions. And not only is there no happiness here, wherever we go, there is no place. There is no place or time where there could be happiness. So we should give up all our romantic ideas that only if I could have this, I will be happy. We should give it up. Any person who is seriously desirous of achieving real happiness must seek out a bona fide spiritual master and take shelter of him by initiation. Guru Padasrai, taking shelter of the lotus feet of a bona fide spiritual master. This is the foundation of spiritual life. People in this world are ready and willing, even if they are a little pious, to become theists and surrender to God and want to love God and serve God. But when it comes to surrendering to God's representative, which is the order of Krishna, because He will not accept service directly, then it is more difficult and people are hesitant. And this is the first test for advancement. We all have our own ideas, we have our own intelligence, and we are proud, but we have to be like Arjuna, Shijashteham Sarimam Tam Papanam, and understand that we have the result of all our intelligence will simply be confusion and misdirection. And then, to surrender to God means to surrender to His representative, a person. We are people and He is a person. We see Him, His skin, bones, flesh, hair, and it is difficult to surrender because we think, oh, I have skin, bones, and hair. He has skin, bones, and hair. He is like me. This is the only way to make advancement. One cannot make advancement without surrender to Guru. Therefore, although, first thing, Guru Parashray. And what are the qualifications for a Guru? In this verse, Sabdha Brahmani Nishnata and Para Brahmani Nishnata. This verse describes, what does anyone know the Sanskrit? I can't remember it now. Yes, thank you. Yes. Very good. Very good, thank you. Who else knows that verse? Raise your hand if you know that verse. Raj Pandit, you know? Gigyasoa. What's the last line? Gigyasoa Sreya Uttamam. No, wrong scripture. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. See that? So this is the qualification of Guru, that he is Sabda Brahmani. He has taken shelter of Sabda Brahman, the Shastra, and he knows all the Shastra, and he has reached the proper conclusion from Shastra, and he is well versed in Shastra, and so Sabda Brahmani Nishnata and Para Brahmani Nishnata, that he's always engaged in Krishna service, especially chanting and hearing the glories of Lord. So these are the two basic qualifications of the spiritual master. He knows Shastra and he's always engaged in Krishna service practically. Of course, there are so many other things he must have, a bona fide spiritual master himself, etc. But here are the two qualifications that are mentioned here. And Prabhupada said, says here, don't be sentimental. Especially in India, someone does a little bit of magic, produces a little ash or something like that. In South India, there's one famous so-called guru who likes to produce ash and little gold murtis and things like that. Very famous. And he allows his disciples to call him God, Bhagawan, like that, etc. And this is bogus. So one shouldn't be fooled. Prabhupada was once asked, what will happen if someone becomes a very sincere devotee of this person? What will happen to him if he thinks about him at the time of death? Because we know yam yam vapi svaram bhavam tyajan yante karevaram. So whatever you think of at the time of death, you will go to that place. So what happens if you're thinking of your guru, but your guru is bogus? What will happen to you? So Prabhupada's answer was very clear. If you are thinking of your guru at the time of death, you will go to your guru. And because he was talking about this specific fellow, he said, and that guru will go to hell, and you will go with him. This is the actual situation. So therefore, one should not accept a spiritual master who is foolish, who is not directed according to Shastra, whose character is bad. There were so many in Vrindavan. There's one bogus person who was calling himself Mahaprabhu even. Who was, I think, last year he was in the paper because he was arrested because two of his female disciples who were secretaries were accusing him, an old man too, of molesting them. One should not do this, whose character is doubtful. He's buying so much land in Vrindavan, this fellow. Okay. And there's another one previously who's gone now. He had an ashram on the Parikrama path and attracted many Westerners in the 60s. And this fellow, I saw a book where his disciples, female disciples, were saying that how he was teaching them to become free from sex desire by having sex with them all. Old man. So all this is going on. And the whole Rajneesh thing that went on before he died. So there's so many bogus spiritual masters like that. And one should not accept a bogus spiritual master. One should accept according to the principles of Shastra. Fixed in Shastra and always engaged in Krishna service. More qualifications. One should not accept one who has not conquered the influence of the six sense gratifying agents, as in the Upadashamrita described by Srila Rupa Goswami himself, the tongue, the genitals, belly, anger, mind, and words. Anyone who has practiced controlling these six is permitted to make disciples all over the world. Vacho vegam, manasakroda vegam, jiva vegam, udaropasta vegam, etc. So these are the qualifications, and one must accept the bona fide spiritual master. And then, if one does find a bona fide spiritual master, and Hari Bhakti Vilas says, actually, although ISKCON's principle, for good reason, is that you must wait, right now it's 1 year before accepting a spiritual master. 6 months you should take shelter of Prabhupada, and then 6 months you have to be fixed on the guru of your choice. But actually, this is a very practical consideration. But Hari Bhakti Vilas explains that as soon as you meet a bona fide spiritual master, you should immediately take initiation from him. This is the actual principle. We have included that for practical purposes, because the disciples come and they don't know anything, and first should learn to take shelter of Prabhupada. It's a very good and practical system. But the essence on the spiritual side is that as soon as you meet a bona fide spiritual master, why? Why should you immediately take shelter of him? It's because Brahmanda Brahmate Konya Bhagavan Jeev, it's so rare. It's so rare for a jiva in this world who is suffering repeated birth and death to be so fortunate to come in contact with a bona fide spiritual master. It is so rare. It is the chance out of the material world of repeated birth and death. It is the crucial point, Prabhupada says here. To accept such a spiritual master is the crucial point for advancement in spiritual life. Second principle is Sri Krishna Dikshanam. And the third one will be the third part of that sloka. First one is Guru Padasrai, Sri Krishna Dikshanam, Adi Shikshanam is the third one. So second principle is one should take Diksha from him after accepting him fully. Oh Guru Maharaj, I am yours. I have no hope unless you choose to bestow your mercy on me. I am lost in this world unless you understands fully, Sambandha Gyan, fully who he is in relationship to Krishna. That is the completion of the Diksha process. So how should one deal? Was that a question? Yeah.
What do you mean by completion of
because getting transcendental knowledge is part of the Diksha. So transcendental knowledge means Sambandha Gyan or Divya Gyan. And the totality of that is complete when one understands by the mercy of the spiritual master his eternal relationship with Krishna. That is the completion of Diksha.
So that means India
It is not complete. I mean, what it is general. Krishnera Nityadas. Jiva Sarupai Krishnera Nityadas. That we are Krishna's eternal servant. But how we serve Krishna, exactly in which way we will serve Krishna, that is not understood by us. That element of Sambandha Gyan is not understood by us. So that we must be very advanced to understand that. We have to be free from all anarthas, the whole process. We must love Krishna. We must be on the platform of the Shakti, basically. And then we can understand that. But that is the completion of Diksha. Krishna consciousness means transferring our center, the center of our life. I've explained this many times. From ourselves to Krishna. And what does that mean? It means that we are serving our mind and body and our selfish interests now. And Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Uchite. We come to the point of always wanting to serve Krishna. So Krishna consciousness is transference of that serving mood. Or the changing of the selfish mood to the serving mood.
You should bring this to
Sorry, many things right now. Krishna consciousness means a development, a cultivation, a development of the serving mood. So that means that all we are really doing is focusing, concentrating, and clarifying our serving mood. That is Krishna consciousness. Who we are serving, how we are serving. And it begins with accepting the spiritual master. The first identity a devotee has is, I am the servant of my spiritual master. And it never becomes that he loses that identity. But just that identity is clarified more. And it's how I am serving and what I do to serve. Clear? So therefore, as Srila Rupa Goswami describes, and Prabhupada explains in the second Sri Krishna Diksham, the second principle, is that one should understand that this my spiritual master is not an ordinary person, but he is representing Krishna. He is Krishna's representative. Krishna has chosen him to represent himself to me. He is the external manifestation of the Supersoul, the Chaitya Guru. The Chaitya Guru is inside, and Krishna is manifest outside as the spiritual master. One should learn Srimad Bhagavatam seriously and with all respect and veneration for the spiritual master. Hearing and speaking Srimad Bhagavatam is the religious process which elevates one to the platform of serving and loving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's a bit of a different point there. The attitude of the disciple should be to satisfy the bona fide spiritual master. Then it will be very easy for him to understand spiritual knowledge. Because Krishna himself becomes pleased when the disciple pleases the spiritual master. Krishna accepts the service through the spiritual master. He does not accept it directly. He accepts it through the spiritual master, through one spiritual master. When Krishna, and I remember this so clearly when dealing with Prabhupada, that the key, or one of the keys in dealing with him, was that you never take anything he says lightly. Everything, because Guru means heavy. So everything he said, it seemed casual, but we never took it casually. Everything was weighty. And seeing the Guru as oneself means, as our self is naturally dear to us, we should see the Guru, our spiritual master, just as dear to us. Any questions?
You just said that we can only understand or establish a Sambandha relationship through Diksha.
I don't remember saying that, but it's true. Of course.
But can someone establish a relationship through Prabhupada? Can Prabhupada give bhakti or only as
One shouldn't avoid Diksha. One shouldn't avoid Diksha. One shouldn't avoid it. If one is kind of unfortunately has gone through such difficult times when so many spiritual masters have left, fortunately by the grace of Prabhupada and from Krishna, for a few years none of the spiritual masters who have had many disciples have left. So everyone's happiness and faith is going up. But this question was always asked, can you just take shelter of Prabhupada if your spiritual master has left? So the answer is actually very simple and very clear. If you don't have any faith in anyone else, yes, you should just take shelter of Prabhupada, completely, with full faith. And if Prabhupada wants, he can do anything. But how fortunate one would be if one has a representative of Prabhupada right there. A pure, unselfish, unmotivated, pure representative of Prabhupada to instruct him. Because you can take shelter of Prabhupada through his books. But it's not easy, because the mind is very tricky. But if someone is right there before your eyes, telling you, You can do this. No, this is not a good idea. You should not do that. You do this, you do that. And you had full faith and love for that person as Prabhupada's representative. How fortunate that is. So if someone doesn't have the facility of a representative of Prabhupada, they should not be made to feel by others that they are useless and all their service is useless, etc. No, they should take full shelter of Prabhupada. But they should pray to Prabhupada, please send them a representative because they need help. Like that. That's my understanding. And one should not try to avoid taking shelter of another. But if one doesn't have faith, one shouldn't artificially do it and be pushed by others, even though it helps. It's necessary. But it's an awkward, difficult position.
So do we have to see our spiritual masters like representatives of Prabhupada? More strength on that point.
Then what?
Then seeing our spiritual masters representatives of Krishna God.
There's no difference, really. If you see your spiritual master as a pure representative of Prabhupada, you will see him as a representative of Krishna, because who is Prabhupada representing? It's the same point, really. The point is that if one has full faith that his spiritual master is just passing on the exact message as Prabhupada, and one has full faith in Prabhupada, then that Prabhupada is simply representing Krishna through the disciplic succession, and Prabhupada's words and desires are Krishna's. That's the same. Transparent via medium. If there is one transparent via medium or there's 15, it doesn't make any difference as long as everything is passed on properly.
It's the main characteristic of bona fide spiritual masters. If you always engage in devotional service.
That is one of the two from that verse that I mentioned.
Very busy. And he's very expert in Shastra. And it is something wrong with definition of spiritual master or characteristic. Because all these gurus which left this thought, maybe left devotional service.
I couldn't follow the first point. Is there something wrong, or?
The definition. Because all these gurus, they're completely under this definition. They were very expert in Shastra and all the time they dedicate devotional service.
If someone was very, very, very expert in Shastra and always engaged in Krishna consciousness purely, then there is no room for Maya to enter. But there were problems. But actually it was a very, very difficult time, a very, very difficult system. It was very difficult for them also. The way that the system was, now things have improved. It set them up for committing offenses. It was very, very difficult. This isn't the proper place or time to explain the whole thing, but when in some ways we can say, oh, they just weren't pure enough devotees. But in other ways we could say that they were just victims. Also, we can look very sympathetically. Also, so it depends.
Is there only one relation between guru and disciples, one is the servant and the master, or
Yes.
is there father and the son?
Same. It's just that when you think of in terms of servant and master, there's a little less intimacy when you think in terms of father and son. But the basic principle is the same. that the Father is big and the Son is little, and the Son's business is to listen to the Father and serve Him and get knowledge from Him. So if you have a very intimate love for your spiritual master, then it can be considered more like Father and Son.
When Jiva Goswami is present, and Shaman Pandit, like let me give an example. So, Rasikananda, the disciple of Shaman Pandit, he accepted Shaman Pandit's life and soul, although his Swayam Guru, Jiva Goswami, is not present. So,
Shamananda Pandit's Diksha Guru wasn't Jiva Goswami. Vijay
He
Chaitanya.
was also present. Jiva Goswami was Shiksha Goswami. So similarly, although we accept Prabhupada as
I couldn't hear that less.
So although we accept Prabhupada as ultimate authority, the ultimate Shiksha Guru for Islam, but still we have to have a very completely surrender and love with all our heart and soul with Prabhupada's representative also. We shouldn't, because I know there's some devotees who think, yes, my Guru is very nice and everything, but still ultimately we have to maintain the Prabhupada only. So it's like do take things of the Mayavad tendency to
Not Mayavad, but their faith is weak. That's what it's, without hedging words. That's what it is.
that is not right.
That's why in ISKCON we should not ever push, and sometimes this happens amongst the disciples of spiritual masters. They canvass for disciples for their spiritual master, and it is a very, very dangerous thing, because if someone just on the spur of the moment, or pushing, or because others are telling him, yes, do it, he's so wonderful, and he takes initiation, but his own faith isn't mature, he may find himself in that type of a relationship where he doesn't trust completely, and then he's crippled in many ways, as you're pointing out. So therefore, the disciples of spiritual masters should make sure that they do not push people to take initiation from their spiritual master. It is a horrible thing, and I've seen so many injured souls because of this. Let their faith mature, and then when their faith is mature, let them take initiation from where their faith is, from who is holding their faith. I've taken your point and brought it a step further. And this kind of thing does go on in ISKCON, and it's improper. Yeah.
In Gauriya Maths, they have only one spiritual master. Anyone who joins has to take initiation from him. It doesn't matter. So, in that case,
In that case, what?
it doesn't matter.
What do we have to do with that? It's not our system.
No, I'm saying, does it really matter that at a very neophyte stage that we have a particular taste or a particular...
Just understand my point, and understand the depths of Ram Gopal Prabhu's point. That if one takes initiation from someone that he doesn't have full faith in, then he can't surrender completely to him. And then what is his position? It's not right. If one has that kind of pure heart, that he will fully surrender in 1 minute. Bandari, you want to sit for some time and hear something? Then immediately you should take initiation. As we said, that's the actual principle. But in Kali Yuga, faith is very difficult to get and very difficult to maintain in Kali Yuga. Everything is working against us in Kali Yuga except Krishna's mercy. So if we, like Arjuna, agree to be directed by Krishna and Krishna's mercy, then we will defeat the opposing party, which is the demonic tendency towards lack of faith of Kali Yuga. But it is not easy in Kali Yuga. But if we have that kind of a heart, then there's no problem. But because in Kali Yuga, many people who don't have that kind of heart, ISKCON has made some good rules about waiting. First, let everyone learn who Prabhupada is and what Prabhupada's mercy is. Veda! It's already time's over. But these points, the third one, then we'll talk until everyone, as long as people have questions, we'll try to answer them. Okay, so for tomorrow, you know the homework, yes? What was the homework for today? 1 to 4?
Yes.
So complete up to 8 for tomorrow. And it may happen that we'll finish the chapter. I'll go after we finish a few points, then I'll go quickly. Okay, any questions? And if the question is, when will we have the test graded and back in your hands? It's coming very soon. Don't worry. Just now coming. It'll take a few days. Okay.